What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in. Everything is so like crooked because I'm leaning. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so tired today, but just wanted to do a little quick introduction. If this is your first time ever watching a StayLIT, um, I started StayLIT because when I was growing up, I loved reading. Loved reading. I was the kid. I'm gonna lean back. I was the kid that was always under the covers with the flashlight, reading, getting in trouble for staying up too late, trying to read books. But then as I got older and went away to school, and started having assigned reading and textbooks and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I don't want to read anymore. I just didn't want to put forth the effort to read. And so recently, or over the past few years, I wanted to get back into reading. And so I said, you know what, I need a book club. I need some way to be accountable for reading, but nothing really worked with my schedule. So I said, well, there's got to be other people out there that have the same issue. Um, and who better to talk to about a book than the person that wrote the book? So I started reaching out to different authors, getting books, reading them, reaching out to the authors and saying, hey, could I interview you about your book? And so today's book is very amazing. It's so super cool because it brought a lot of elements that, those are my dogs, if you can hear them, I'm not sure. Um, Brought a lot of elements that I never thought about when it comes to motherhood and parenting, and um, it was just super super cool to see the different things that we sometimes don't think about. So yeah, here we go. Thanks for watching.
I'm so excited. First, thank you so much for writing the book. So as I was going through the book, um, so I'm 30 years old, and I've been in my relationship now for about 3 years. I had it, yeah, almost 4 years now, and we've been friends for forever. So people are always like, "Hey, so when are you guys gonna tie the knot? And when are you guys gonna you know, it's like, is it coming soon? Is it coming soon?" So it's something that children is something that's in the back of my mind. Uh, and when I started going through your book, everything about the characters in the book was so eye-opening. Because whenever I interact with mothers and new mothers, my first instinct is, "Oh my goodness, look at your little person." And then immediately then I go to mom and dad, and it's like, "Oh, you guys aren't invisible. You're totally still here. You were here before." So it was really really interesting to get sort of that inside the mom's head view of what was going on. So I am going to jump right into my questions. Hold on, let me pull them out. Okay, so first,
Wait, can I ask you one question first?
yes,
Where in the world are you?
I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, cool. Okay. I was curious.
So it's funny, when I went away to I never really thought that I sounded any kind of Southern, but then when I went away to school and came back down south, all of my friends from up north were like, "Oh my goodness, girl, what happened?" Um, because you because we didn't used to hear it, but boy, oh boy, we definitely hear that little southern drawl. And every now and then, it depends, if I, especially like if I'm talking to my family, it's just a done deal. Everybody says, "Oh, you guys are so funny listening to you talk on the phone." So that is my thing. That is my thing. Okay, so tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. I'm Elisa Albert, and I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and I'm from a big Jewish family, and I spent about 10 years in New York and became a writer and moved to upstate New York to Albany about 10 years ago, and have been raising my family and living here and writing and teaching, and I doula on the side, and my life.
Nope, that's so super cool. So super cool. So I'm kind of just saying this because everybody's going to be listening later. If you have not read the book, there may be a couple of spoilers, so that's your fault because I told you guys if you're going to read the book. So read the book. I was so excited when I got my copy of the book. Read the book, and then if you have any questions, everything will be self-explanatory as you read the book and catch up. All right, so tell me what was kind of the everything that we do has a reason. So tell me what was the kind of reason behind writing this book? What pushed you into writing it?
Well, I had a child, and as I went through that process and learned so much about what that entailed and kind of chose my own path through that, I sort of woke up to seeing so many people around me make all kinds of different choices. And started to sort of see these patterns and these themes and really repetitive and what seemed to me needless suffering, and a lot of political stuff. And like suddenly it's like I went through the looking glass, and like the world started to seem super different. And all of a sudden, I couldn't unsee all of this stuff, and how it fits together, and how it kind of it was this new dimension to my feminist identity that I sort of was shocked to see. And so I kind of became obsessed with these issues, and like how women are sort of set up going into motherhood, and what the culture does, and what our communities do, and what society does, and what the history is behind so much of what is, at this point, just super systemic. And I just, one after another, friends, relatives, everyone around me is going through some version of this. And I'm just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's like connect the dots here. Like, let's not reinvent the wheel. Like, what are we doing? And so this character was born, so to speak, out of my obsession really with what happens during the childbearing year, and how it can go well and how it can go super shitty.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I think for me, I think of course I'm gonna go with Mom, Ari, as my favorite character. As I'm going through
Because
the
she's
book.
the narrator, so.
Well, because I feel like she was just so transparent about everything that was going on, and it awakened so much that I never thought. In one section of the book where she's having conversations, and um, I'm pretty sure that this was Mina's talking to her as well. Like, hey, I really wish that they would have told me before I started doing this that this was going to be unpleasant. And I really just really connected with her as far as the academics
Oh
and
yeah.
the simple life shifts that were happening. I could see a lot of relatability, which was very, very exciting. So as the author, who was your favorite character?
I think Ari too, her voice kind of came to me, and it's what guided me through and what carried me along. But it's funny because a lot of people have had the opposite reaction. I've heard a lot of like, she sucks, like, you know, um, to each their own. But I love that transparency, and that sort of, the generosity with even like the most negative, unflattering thoughts, which is hard to get in life.
Yep.
And there's my son.
What's going on? Hi.
Anyway, so yeah, so I think she would be my favorite.
I love it. I love it. Okay. And who was your least favorite?
You know, the probably like the dead mother ghost.
Mm.
The ghost of Ari's mother who comes along just to sort of torment her and, undermine her and make sure she remembers that she's, a worthless piece of shit.
Wow, I never thought about that. Because I'm the kind of person where at some point, I mean, it's been a journey, a lot of personal growth. Um, I'm learning to separate the things that are told and the way that people project their own hurt, and their own
Right.
unfamiliarity with what's going on. That's
Right.
just how you deal with it. Okay, that's okay. But guess what? That's not who I am. That's not what I bring to the table. So I kind of, although the that, like you said, that ghosty mom was kind of present throughout the book, I didn't really. I was kind of like, girl, bye. I was not spending
Mhm.
a lot of time, really connecting with that mom. So that was really interesting. So you kind of touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but what encouraged you? Because it jumped right in from the very beginning. The religious element with the family. So what encouraged you to incorporate that into the book?
Well, I like to deal with my own baggage as much as possible in fiction. So I don't want to like waste my energies, as it were, inventing things that don't need to be reinvented.
Right.
And coming from a religious background myself, it's always there and it sort of informs everything. There's like, it's just kind of it's like the language and the texture and the context of everything that I'm wanting to think about.
Right.
Whether like it's like a push pull, whether like in opposition to it or whether embracing it, questioning it, struggling with it. That's just kind of a dyed in the wool part of my consciousness. So I love that it's just there to deal with in fiction all the
Ab-
time.
Absolutely. And I really, because, again, with the whole child rearing thing, um, growing up one particular religious way, at some point, you have to make a decision. Hey, am I going to raise my children in that same particular way? Am I going to expose them to other things? Am I going to, uh, because you have heritage and then you have religion as well. So there's a whole lot that's really, you know, intertwined in there.
Right.
Uh,
And I'm also really, really interested always over and over again in the ways in which religion and spirituality are not always the same thing. So that like we can have like a really amazing spiritual, seeker, guide, whatever, but like what happens within religion is oftentimes like not remotely relevant to
yeah, yeah,
that. So
absolutely.
that's why Ari's like dad and stepmom and whatever, it's like they're and her friends' parents at that horrible dinner. It's like, these are like religious people, but like they're not present in any meaningful way as humans.
Exactly, exactly. And it takes away from what you're trying to bring to the table with your religion if you can't apply it all the way across the board. Like there's so much more than just dot 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 dot. And I loved all of the conversations that just happened to wrap back around to well, you're not doing it the way that you're supposed to be doing it because
Right.
it's just a little simple thing. And I really again, that's another layer. I think parenting is something that we don't understand how many levels there are to
Yeah.
everything that just gets dumped in your plate that you really haven't had to worry a whole lot about because you can do things for yourself, but then when it comes to taking care of something else all the way
Yeah.
together, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. So that's
And like another person who's not you and who, ultimately is not an extension of your ego. And if you don't like get real clear on that, a lot of pain, I think,
really.
results.
One comment in the book that I really appreciated was that life is going to, oh, shush, sweet puppy. Life is going to, it's going to happen. It's
Right.
going to happen regardless of who you are. And so you're not going to be able to protect your child from everything. You're not going to be able to keep them from everything. They're going to get their feelings hurt. They're going to be betrayed by people. Like those things are going to happen. And so if you go into it knowing that that's going to happen and you kind of prepare, hey, so this is how you handle certain situations as opposed to, oh, well, let me keep that from happening because
Right.
then that sets up a bigger letdown. And that was something that that I didn't really realize that I still was kind of holding on to. Like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I keep them safe. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't protect them from everything. So equip them with the tools that they need to be able to handle their business, and then you'll be able to. It changes the whole element from like do it this way. Let me hold on to you. This is how it's going to go, and I will be here to support you when these things happen.
But like in order to do that, it's like a real Zen master proposition where like your ego has to just get shoved to the side all the time, like every day, over and over and over. Like it's not about you. It's not about you. It's not, people love to like have babies and be like, my baby, like my family's complete. Like, look, they're wearing a cute t-shirt. I gave them a whimsical name. Like, I'm good. It's like, no, no, no. Like you're zero. Like this is not you. Like,
now it's about the baby.
right.
Oh my goodness, that was I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
What was the significance or what was your reasoning for showing us the two different support group mothers?
Oh, well, I just found it really hard personally as a new mom to connect with women I felt I could trust and I felt, could reflect some of my values.
Mhm.
And it's not that you can't be friends with people who don't reflect your values, but like there are some core values that it's just really hard to hang out with people if they're coming at things, if life and death means something totally different to somebody, it's hard to like chill with them, And I think that like a recipe for happiness as a new mom is having folks you can chill out with.
Mhm.
And like share the love, share the responsibility, share the struggle, and it's just there's no shortcuts to that, and it's painful to have to build that from the ground up. And anyone who's ever moved to a new place or had a life change or had to sort of start over, knows what that's like. There's no shortcut.
I liked how in the when she's talking to listening to some of the moms, it's kind of like, yeah, woo, good for you. That's kind of just what you're supposed to do. You don't get a medal or a pat on the back for just, for just the regular day to day stuff. Um, so one thing when I was going through the book, because very early on it talks about her surgery.
Yeah.
Sweet puppy. Shh. It like I said early on, it talks about her puppy, her surgery, and
Off if she had a puppy.
right. And so, like I said, I tuned into it in the beginning, and then it came back up, and I was like, huh, okay, we're bringing that back up. Interesting. Okay, I guess so because it doesn't go away. It's something that's there. And then I started thinking, oh wow, yeah, I guess that would be an experience because you have to heal and it's a different situation. And then listening to her talk about how she didn't really feel like she had given birth, which was all the way an eye-opening moment for me because I never considered that. Um, Never ever considered that might be a feeling that someone experiences. But then it kept coming back up, and it kept coming back it up. And I mean, this is just continually throughout the book. I was like, whoa, well, we talked about that already. This is something that she is seriously struggling with. So why was that such a heavy element all the way throughout the book?
Well, because for Ari, being subjected to a C-section was kind of an assault. So I think there's some PTSD going on there. That this was not a pathological pregnancy or birth. This was not something where it's like, oh, you have this condition or you have this problem, and this is the way that this is going to work out for you and your baby. It was a really common unfortunately super typical sort of cascade domino effect of kind of technological bullying,
Mhm.
where women are subjected to unnecessary surgery. And, major abdominal surgery is no joke. I mean, if it can save your life,
Then that's one thing. And
great. And it's estimated that 1 to 2 out of every 10 birthing women might need a C-section to save their life. But in this country, we're at 40% in some places, and upwards. So a lot of women are being subjected to major surgery they don't need, which has a lot of harmful side effects for both mothers and babies. And I think for Ari, who's like this feminist grad student, but who in this moment is just like, I don't know, like, okay, do whatever you have to do, doctor. Like, and the sort of the whole dynamic with doctors and patients and the power dynamic there. And like, this is like a whole other issue. But so for her, the aftermath of this is very much getting over an assault.
Mhm.
Um, she was subjected to something physically, something was like taken from her, and it can be really hard for what?
That didn't have to be.
Right, right. If she had had the right support, if she had been treated with more respect and dignity in this profoundly vulnerable moment, it could have been a powerful experience instead of a helpless, terrifying, and ultimately kind of violent one.
Ah, it was like I said, it was just really interesting, and my heart went out for her because everybody has experiences. Everybody has experiences um that stay with them, and
Yeah.
and for this one to be such a it's a big one,
It's
you
a
know.
big
Uh,
one. And when you're starting out as a new mother, to be starting out from a place of disempowerment and trauma
Mhm.
is, I mean, how can you provide for another person? How can you be a fountain of strength and, when you're broken?
Mhm. Mhm. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about, because we touched on her being this feminist who was pursuing her academics, and at one point we talk about her getting her fellowship and then starting that and then just kind of
Mhm.
I don't really care anymore. It's not that deep, and I'm not really feeling it. Was that because the baby had come, or did the baby kind of just magnify what was already underlying?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think she was somebody who was sort of not as connected to herself as she could or should have been. And, like many sort of extreme experiences,
Mm,
whether traumatic or not, like it clarified and jolted her and kind of like, wait a minute, what's important? Like,
yes.
what do I care? Like everything has to be redefined,
Mhm.
you know? If you're lucky in the aftermath of trauma, some people just zone out and then it's like bye-bye forever.
Mm. And and what I throughout the entire book, there were so many changes, and I think that a lot of times it's not that we don't pay attention. We all have so much growth that needs to happen. We don't pay attention to the fact that here is a person that has undergone a humongous change in and of themselves. Like, this is just a personal change that has now taken place. Get into after the baby comes. There's so much change,
Right.
to
Right.
everything after that point. So it's a forever journey, and we just can't. Um, I feel like at that point there should be so much more care and more attention placed in those lives. Like you said, just be there, just being supportive. Hey, what do you need? What do you need? What
Yeah.
can I do for you? You're not really sure? Okay, cool. I appreciated the family that was like, hey, what did you have for dinner? Come on
Mhm.
over for dinner.
Mhm.
Hey, we're about to eat. Come on in. Like,
Always foods, like just don't worry about it. Just come on in.
that is the community. That's the community that you need. And they were such a really good, like, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Lifesavers, like literal
you. Mhm.
lifesavers. So
Um,
simple.
and that moment of her packing up and showing up on the doorstep, like, I needed somewhere to go.
Mhm.
I'm just overwhelmed. Like you said, that it's so much change, and to just have a place that you know that you can go, that is beyond anything that you could ever imagine. Um, okay, so again, talking about the support system, I like all these little segues. So she having support is crucial in this life-changing experience.
Yeah.
Um, so Mina's life was a completely different situation than Ari. I loved how Ari kept throwing shade a little bit when she's like, uh, of course she's gonna do the regular birth, like she's
Right.
not built for the other thing.
Right.
Um, I thought that was so interesting because even in friendship, you still have that moment of, well, that's what, I still kind of wanted that for me.
Mhm.
And
Like
you know,
our friends highlight our own like aspirations and our own frustrations and you know,
so she had to have that element. So why did you I guess kind of send her life? Because I mean, and then I was devastated right along with Ari when she moved. I was just super sad because I was like, oh no, oh no, this is what you this was your family. um
yeah.
so why was her life so um she came in because that was one thing she said. She's like, yo, this was not a sure thing. This was a temporary thing. um so why did you bring her in to not keep her there, I guess, pretty much?
I didn't plan it that way. I sort of she like Mina sort of arrived as a character and I was like following it through and you know, it sort of took on a life of its own and it seemed right that this be like a flash in the sky, you know? That it's almost like, okay, like in life, sometimes we get what we need just barely, but we don't get to keep or hold on to anything really, you know? But if we're lucky enough to be able to sort of take what we're given in any given moment, it often is there for us. It's just not, you know, we can't nail it down. We can't own it. We can't, you know, um, so just that, I think that sense that things are always changing, and when we find our equilibrium, that's great. But what we have to keep doing is refine our equilibrium constantly, constantly.
um
Um,
that hit me right in the heart, because I was talking to a friend and I was saying it's crazy how things that I really, 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 really looked forward to, let's say even 5 years ago, that
mhm.
now are my new normal.
Right,
uh, what
right,
happens when I can't imagine that not being my new normal?
right.
But at some point, something is going to shift and I'm going to have to readjust.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
and
like careful what you wish for because you may get it, and then what?
right, and there's this constant, if only I, oh, how sweet, I see the puppy. There's this constant thought that, hey, if this happens again, like you said, I'll be complete or I'll be satisfied. Just let me get to here. Um, and then you get there and say, this is nothing like what I thought this was going
Right,
to be. And
right.
I feel like that was unfortunately what was going on a lot throughout the book for Ari. It just was not, it was kind of like, okay, well, I mean, I did it, and whoa, this is not what I had.
Right. Like starting with having a baby, how many people are like, just gotta like get married, have a baby. And then it's like, now your problems really start.
Everything really
Yeah.
is just, I appreciated how the questions of are you ready and all of that kind of stuff, because you can know so much about yourself and you learn so much, but that again, it's a completely different experience. So you have no idea. You
Right.
have no idea. You just have to
Yeah.
constantly grow and constantly
Yeah.
turn into what it is that you want it to be. It's
Right. Like rise to whatever the occasion is. And there's no way you like you can have all your ducks in a row, but that's not how life works.
Exactly, exactly. I had there was one situation, and it blew me away because I didn't know how in the world she kept going. Um, but a young lady had the career, had the family, and then had her world turned completely upside down so young and so early into everything, and dusted herself off and kept it moving, and it's just flourishing, and it's a beautiful, to see her step into who she could be, but at the same time, it's like, who
Right.
plans for that? She had everything was picture perfect, and then just like that,
Yeah.
her life completely changed. um so it's, I don't know, I get into my feelings.
People, we humans are really, really, really stupid. Like we really are. We repeat the same sort of patterns of thinking. We're like, oh, I just need this. Okay, now I have that. Oh, no, no, no. Now I need this other thing. Oh, okay. Like let me gather everything and let me do everything and now I'm gonna be happy, right? Oh, wait, I'm not. Like we're all just like crazy.
Continually going around and around and around and around, living one day. Like, find this moment, find what is
Yeah.
precious here, take the jewel, and
Yeah.
then tomorrow there's going to be another precious moment. Like, there's going to be
Yeah.
something new. Um, okay. I want to say, oh, sorry, that was my little thing. I was like, ding. One of my favorite moments in the book was the wedding, early on, where where they were like, all of these different women. You had the single ladies, you had the ladies that had just, were in the process of getting married, you had the mothers that had children, you had the mothers that were in the process of having a child, you had the moms that were seasoned and were like, y'all do what you want to do, we're done. Um so why at that point, uh because I was heartened, I mean, disheartened for her, because she was super looking forward to it. It was her moment out. She said, yes, I'm going to go have a good time. And then, there's a little bit thrown in there that adjusts that for her. Um, so what was the reasoning behind having all of those, um, or I guess bringing light to all of those particular situations?
I think because we go through all these different phases of our lives as women, and we're sort of pitted against each other.
Mhm.
And we're brainwashed, I think, sometimes to imagine that, like, a woman who's not in the same boat or whose, like, external circumstances or experiences have not been similar to ours, like, actually, we're all part of a continuum and we could be supporting each other so much better. But it's sort of like, okay, well, now I'm not one of those single bitches anymore. Like, good luck, like, I don't want to hear about your boyfriend troubles. Or like, ugh, like, I'm not one of those like old women who are
Mhm. Mhm.
irrelevant. And like, and it's just kind of like, wait a second. Like, we're all part of like a sort of a single organism. And when you do that, you're causing a sort of a disruption in the flow of existence. Like, if you don't have kids, like, of what service might you be to somebody who has kids and could use your help? If you have kids and, there's somebody who's kind of lost and unconnected or like unpartnered or whatever, like, of what service might you be to them? Like,
Mhm.
it's just a way, I think, that there's like a kind of a rip in the fabric of our whole lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we're estranged from ourselves in other phases too, and it's just kind of like, oh, you're not that anymore, you're this now. And like,
Mhm.
and there's just like not enough or as much kind of understanding and support as might behoove us all.
Mhm. I really like the consistent theme throughout the book of just paying attention, because the things that we say, um, without thinking, and a lot of times people are not trying to,
Hmm.
be ugly, or uh, and put out different things. They're not trying to do that, but in our careless, um, careless ignorance almost,
Right.
just saying things that really probably shouldn't be said, or even like she said, shame on the couples that are all at the couples table and you guys all know one another, and then you don't try and
Right.
reach out to the people that are at the event that don't know anybody else. Um,
Like,
it's
can't we all just be like a little more human to each other?
a little, I mean, just that extra step, paying attention, um because I know that that is something that I'm trying to be more conscious of. I pay attention when I go out to see the people that are kind of standing in the corner just watching,
Right.
and I make an attempt, or I make a conscious attempt to, hey,
Mm.
are you standing in the corner because you want to stand in the corner, or are you standing in the corner because you want to be in the mix but don't really know how to break through?
That's
Um,
lovely.
and and it's amazing how many connections you make, how many experiences you learn from other
Yeah.
people, just because you're aware of what's going on. I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from the book was just start
Cool.
to pay attention. Think
Really
before
cool.
you say something. uh,
Right.
think about how that really could affect whoever you're talking to, um, and learn to let people communicate how they're feeling, because a lot of times what we do is we say, hey, you're absolutely free to share things with me, tell me things, absolutely, and then you go in and say, oh, but you shouldn't feel that way.
Exactly.
Not way to do that, that's not how that's supposed to go. And that therein does not create a safe space for someone to come and feel like they can be protected. And so that's, we're here to protect one another. um Okay, my last question was, can you leave, well, before I ask you what's next on your agenda, can you leave us with one gem of wisdom, something that we can take away and apply daily?
I really like what you just said a lot, like being able to hold the space for people and to make room for perspectives that don't always align with your own experience,
Okay.
is a really profound thing to be able to do. And I think reading fiction, especially, trains us in how to do that, because what you're doing when you're reading fiction is you're holding space for something that, I mean, doesn't even exist,
Right.
but you're forcing yourself to be in a space that's just not about you at all, and
Right.
to sort of watch and listen and bear witness, and that's just a beautiful thing to be practiced at.
Definitely, a growing experience is definitely something that you have to be in constant awareness of. But that's the goal. That's where we're trying to get.
I feel like
Uh,
you just gave me that gem of wisdom.
oh, you're so kind. Oh,
You.
I'm gonna be beaming the whole rest of the day. um, so, do you have anything else coming up soon? Do you have any books, any events, anything that we can support you with?
Yeah, well, I have a novel that I've been working on for quite some time, since Afterbirth came out, and that is just about done. And so it's going to start like getting into the editorial process soon. I'm excited about that. I'm working on a bunch of short stories. And yeah, I guess my next like event is, I'm interviewing an amazing journalist and writer named Jennifer Block at Greenlight Bookstore in Brooklyn on July 17th, for her book launch. Her new book is coming out. It's called Everything Below the Waist: Why Healthcare Needs a Feminist Revolution. It is the most epic work of journalism. She spent 10 years on it. She is incredible. It's
So
she.
timely.
Hmm?
And so timely.
Oh my God. Like, she goes into everything from birth control to fertility, um, everything in between. And Jennifer Block is a badass of the highest order. I mean, she leaves no stone unturned. She's so thorough, so brilliant, and it will blow your mind. I mean, the history of the pill, where we are with regard to all kinds of things that are being done to women's bodies, on women's bodies, at women's bodies. It's super. I just cannot recommend this book highly enough. Like, everybody needs a copy.
That's so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. Lisa, thank you so, so much. So,
Sure.
so much
Thank you.
for number one, writing the book, and then for taking time out of your day to talk to us about the book. We really, really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Uh, that's
My
all I
pleasure.
got.
Such a fun time talking to you. Thank you.
You too, honestly. I really do appreciate it. Oh, I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for staying all the way to the end and watching the entire interview. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to do that. I hope that you. It's mosquitoes out here. I hope that you learned something. I hope that it inspired you to go get the book if you haven't already read it, to support this industry so that it doesn't fade away. Stay tuned for the next book. I told y'all I'm tired today, so my thoughts are not all the way together, but it's reality. So stay tuned for the next book. I'll keep you guys updated and have a happy month. Bye.